Please, let me handle this.
Calm down. Now get back to your seat. I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're one on the phone. Everything's gonna be all right. Please.
Sister, please, I'll handle this.
Yourself.
I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. Out of here. I gotta get out of here.
Possibly my favorite cold open ever. That came out of the mind of Dave Rubin a week ago. I said to Joseph, can you do what I'm thinking using your computer? He said, I think I can. We put that together. Of course, that's The Great Airplane. Probably the funniest movie of all time. I've said it before, my personal number one on the funny list is Naked Gun, which both, by the way, created and written by my friend David Zucker. I think Naked Gun is probably the funniest of all time. Most people seem to think it's Airplane, but there's a little bit of a generational shift there. Anywho, this is the Rubin Report. I'm Dave Rubin. It is March 18th in the year 2025. We are live streaming on the internet via Rumble, YouTube, and Locals. Subscribe and join us for a post-game show at rubinreport.locals.com. And we got a jam-packed show today. There's just a lot of stuff about a whole bunch of different topics, some of the usual stuff, some new stuff. We're going to start today with Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller is the Deputy Chief of Staff over at the White House. He's been working with Trump for years and years. He was part of the original administration. And, you know, there's this big debate right now about who we are actually allowed to deport. And can we deport criminals? And can we deport green card holders? And who has full rights that are guaranteed to us in the Constitution? Is it citizens or people that are here on student visas, green cards, et cetera, et cetera? And this fight has really unmasked the left beautifully. And this is really what Trump is better at than perhaps anything else. He takes an issue that basically, what people call an 80-20 issue, that basically 80% of us agree on. And then he throws it out there, and then the Democrats and the left and the media, the whole machine, go bananas, and it further unmasks their lunacy. So let's just dive right into it. So Deputy Chief of Staff over at the White House, Stephen Miller, was on CNN on a program hosted by this woman, Kasie Hunt. I'm curious where she got her shirt. I think she's missing a couple buttons. And they started discussing what federal court judges can and can't do as it pertains to executive branch power, meaning if we're going to boot people out of the country because the president has had enough of, you know, green card holders, let's say, I don't know, occupying college campuses, calling for genocide, making sure the kids can't go to school, taking over streets, vandalizing monuments, et cetera, et cetera. Can the president do that? Is it legal? And Stephen Miller, this is just, if you want to see someone who is qualified at their job and knows how to communicate those qualifications, well, then I have a video for you.
Of Jocelyn Hungary,
White House
or Lincoln
above
Riley, or anyone
the federal
else.
courts? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that what you said, there's a separation of powers. The judiciary exercises judgment and relief.
I don't speak for the White House. You are here to speak You're here to speak for the White House. I just want you to answer that one simple question.
I am. Ready? Here we go. Under a proper reading of the Constitution, district court judges provide relief to individual plaintiffs seeking relief. District court judges do not have the authority, as a general matter, to enjoin the functioning of the executive branch, but their authority is at its lowest point when the president is exercising his powers as commander-in-chief. And I asked you a question, you never answered it. Can a judge enjoin troop movements overseas? Can a district court judge enjoin troop movements overseas?
Stephen,
yes or no?
I am not going to get into the
just say no, and then you'll know that I'm right.
This is a
just
separate
say no,
question,
and you'll know that
Stephen.
I'm right.
Okay, we're not talking.
Stephen, this is CNN. I am not going to get into the facts about the thing that we're talking about right now. Do you think this is some kind of news program? So this is a guy who understands what the law is. He's clearly delineating between what the executive branch is allowed to do, has the power to do, and when judges can step in. And by the way, we should have a healthy tension between the branches. That's what separation of powers is all about. But you don't want the judicial branch overstepping so the president can't do the things that we voted him in for. In this case, deporting people who are here illegally, who are bringing fentanyl, who are raping women, murdering people, et cetera, et cetera. It continued, and it just got better and better.
When the president is exercising his Article 2 powers to defend the country against an invasion or to repel a foreign terrorist that is unlawfully in the country, he's exercising his core Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief.
Is Venezuela invading the U.S.?
This is a very important point. This is a Title 50 authority. It's a commander-in-chief authority. So just to ask you a simple question, you talk about how the system works. Does a district court judge have the right to direct or enjoin troop movements overseas? Yes or no?
Well, Stephen, my question, if you could answer my question first,
in other words,
is Venezuela invading our country in a way that would apply this way?
So I'll answer yours and you'll answer mine. Under the terms of the statute, Tren de Aragua is an alien enemy force that has come here as detailed at length in the proclamation at the direction of the Venezuelan government. The statute says that a president has the ability to repel an invasion or predatory incursion that is directed by a foreign
state
government.
or a government, right? Are they a state or a government?
This would be, yes, it is documented that TDA was sent by the Venezuelan government in the proclamation. And here's an even more important point. Under the Constitution, who makes that determination? A district court judge elected by no one or the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? The president and the president alone makes a decision of what triggers that determination in the statute.
You really need to understand, if you didn't catch all of the subtext in there, how good this guy is at his job. So what he's saying is, Article 2 says that the president is allowed to make this decision as it pertains to deportations because of a foreign invasion. She's trying to whittle it between, but is it directed by the government of Venezuela, or is it just Tren de Aragua, this group of Venezuelans acting separately? Now, he clarifies that even further. He says, no, they are directed by the government. There might be some argument or issue or something. There might be some way of making an argument around, okay, maybe Tren de Aragua wasn't fully directed by the government. But the question you have to ask yourself, after 4 years of watching thousands and literally millions of illegals coming over and not knowing who they are or what their intentions are or any of that stuff, and then seeing the connection to crime in our cities and sanctuary cities and homelessness and drugs and all that stuff. The question is what qualifies, the real question, I'm not talking about the sort of purely legal question, because they're talking about a legal question. Was it directed by Venezuela or not? He's saying there are documents that show that Tren de Aragua was. I'm talking about more of a philosophical issue, which is, do you consider, after 4 years of what we have just seen, people from literally all over the world coming to this country illegally, do you consider it an invasion? And if you do, does the president have the right to deport these people? I absolutely do. Now, they can have the legal arguments around that, but you may remember about 2 months ago, I think it was in first week of January, if I'm not mistaken, in Miami, even in Miami, where we do this stuff right in Florida, we had 2 truckloads, U-Hauls filled with Chinese nationals, about 20 in each one, that just magically showed up here. They came over the water, somehow got in U-Hauls, and then because we have good policing here, and now our police coordinate with ICE, thanks to DeSantis and Trump, like these people just showed up. So it's not just about the Venezuelans. What are Chinese nationals doing here? What are people from all over the world? So anyway, he just did a beautiful, beautiful job there, because he's explaining the law, he's explaining the issues behind it, and what the separation of powers actually are. Josh Holmes, where is he from again? Josh Holmes? We'll get it for just a second. I'm blank. Was it Federalist? It's maybe not Federalist. We'll check in a sec. But Josh Holmes tweeted this out, which I thought was quite good. Somehow, Democrats are now arguing in favor of foreign terrorist gangs to remain in the United States because of judicial review. Hamas supporters remaining with visas for First Amendment purposes, and men playing in women's sports because of equality. What a time to be alive. Like, that just nails it, and it illustrates that 80-20 thing. Trump has his opposition defending the most absurd things possible. Do we know where Josh Holmes is from?
Yeah. Calgary.
From what? Calvary, which it's a website. He's a good writer. Now I want to show you the sort of counter to some of this stuff. So yes, we're going to jump over to the televised mental institution known as MSNBC. Here is former FBI General Counsel Andrew Weissman basically saying that this is the worst possible thing. Deporting illegals is wrong. The world's going to explode. Evil everywhere. Dogs and cats. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, there's very disturbing reporting in the New York Times just this morning suggesting, not concluding, but suggesting that that may in fact have happened. And that Judge Boasberg, the trial court judge who issued this temporary restraining order and said, you can't remove people. And he also said, to the extent that their planes in the air, they need to come back. You cannot remove people because I'm finding that this is improper. It's unclear at this point whether, in fact, that order was complied with. The doomsday scenario for this country is the idea that you would just ignore a court order. At that point, there is no rule of law in this country. Yeah. You're a law of the jungle. So that's a thing to keep an eye on as to whether that, in fact, happened.
Andrew, do you think when the bad guys come here, how do you think they're going to treat an asexual, low testosterone guy like you, right? And I genuinely mean that. I don't even mean that to be a dick. But when the bad guys are here and the barbarians are at the gate, you're the first type of person that they're going to take out, right? You are. And you will sit on MSNBC with a guy that used to be a sane Republican talking about how bad Donald Trump is, how evil Donald Trump is for getting illegals out of the country. Why is it that you people are never concerned with the citizens of the United States? Why is it you are consistently on the wrong side of everything? Don't take my word for it, though, because they showed that clip right there to Stephen Miller later in the day on Fox News, and he doesn't like that Andrew Weissman guy either.
So first of all, Andrew Weissman is an absolute moron. He is a moron, and he is a fool, and he's a degenerate. Andrew Weissman has devoted his career to putting innocent Americans in jail, taking away their civil liberties. He was involved in the Mueller coup against a democratically elected President Donald J. Trump. Weissman should never be on TV anywhere. He should hang his head in eternal shame for what he's done to this country. And now he's up there shilling for people who rape and murder Americans. That's who Andrew Weissman is.
I don't know that I can add much more to that. I don't think those two like each other very much. They should do a celebrity death match. But yes, this guy, again, he was involved in the Mueller investigation, but it's more broadly the point. Why is it? I just really want to know. Unless your goal is to destroy the United States of America, why is it the only time the left cares about law and order, the only time they care about separation of powers, and all of these things is when it's to defend non-Americans? They seem to never care about doing anything that would defend the livelihood and, say, the pursuit of happiness for you. I find that rather curious. We'll have more on that in a moment, but first let's talk about Field of Greens. Today's your lucky day. Field of Greens just kicked off a huge St. Paddy's Day sale. Get 30% off when you use code LUCK. Look, we don't always eat as healthy as we should, but Field of Greens has your back. One delicious glass is packed with a rainbow of doctor-selected fruits and veggies to support heart and kidney health, metabolism, and more. So even when you go for the burger instead of the salad, you're still giving your body the good stuff it needs. And during their St. Paddy's Day sale, you can save some green while you drink your greens. Save 30% on all of their popular flavors and bundles when you use code LUCK. Whether Field of Greens is already part of your routine or you've been waiting to give it a try, now's your chance to save big. The sale's only going on for a few days, so don't miss out. Go to fieldofgreens.com and use promo code LUCK. That's fieldofgreens.com, promo code LUCK. Okay, so as I said a moment ago, we can have the legal debate. I'm not a lawyer, but I think what Stephen Miller just laid out there, it was fairly obvious, and he makes the point of what the law is about and everything else. But that's not how they're going to deal with this stuff on television, right? It's going to be overly emotive sort of craziness, defense of all of the bad guys versus mean fascist Donald Trump. Over on CNN, Scott Jennings, this guy, just by being not completely insane, has taken over the entire network. He sits on this panel show with this woman, Abby Phillips, who we were discussing her before the show. A lot of these people on television, they're morons or they're evil or they're racist or she just doesn't seem that bright. She seems like a nice lady. Phoenix wants to go out for a drink with her, but she just doesn't seem that bright when she's doing this. And maybe that's why they gave her the show anyway. So Scott Jennings sits down with her and usually a bunch of leftists who are hysterical, and he just kind of tells them the truth and they just sit there and listen. It's nice in some sense, I suppose.
Don't they have to actually prove that those people are who they say they are and that they've carried out those acts of those criminal acts?
Well, we know they're violent people because...
How do we know?
Because their records have already been pulled. I mean, these people were violent.
I think that the court,
from where they came from, and now they're here illegally. So
one of the things that happened in court today, well, that's what I'm saying.
Have they even given us their identity?
In the court today is that the lawyers for the government couldn't say really who these people were.
And interesting enough, what they tried to use is they said, "Oh, we're looking at some of their tattoos, which means they have a gang affiliation, so they can be deported." It's a slippery slope that we don't want to open up.
But they're illegal
immigrants,
right?
That's why we have a process for everything.
But they're illegal immigrants, yes?
So actually, again,
we don't know
the state of affairs.
They're saying they're bad people, so they can get out of here.
It would be fine if we knew that, but we don't.
The quotas is all fun until the rapper has the gun, right? What if somebody turns that on one of us or anybody
we're citizens.
Else?
They're not citizens.
It really is incredible what's going on over there. Do you see? It's just over and over. Why do you people not care about citizens of the United States? If you are here illegally, you have already broken the law. I know they don't believe that, right? We played you that clip the other day of Jasmine Crockett, that wizard, saying that they somehow being here illegally is not illegal, but it is. And so there is no evidence whatsoever. The other guy that he was talking to goes, "We don't know that," meaning he goes, Scott Jennings says, "They're illegal, aren't they?" He goes, "We don't know that." There is no evidence whatsoever anywhere, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we have deported anyone who is a legal citizen of the United States. There is nobody that we grabbed that was like, "Here's my license, I was born in Passaic, New Jersey," and that we booted them out of the country, right? So they're whittling this down to a bunch of people who are criminals in the first place because they're here illegally, and then what they're really arguing about is the level of criminality. Well, maybe they had the Tren de Aragua tattoo, maybe they set someone on fire, but maybe they didn't. Maybe they just stabbed somebody. They must be a great person. It continued over there on CNN. Here's Representative Adriano Espaillat saying that, yes, they're gonna come for the citizens next.
But there's people who are here.
The state of affairs in America is one that citizens are being stopped and questioned. I met with a U.S. citizen who was stopped at a subway station, questioned by ICE, detained for 3 hours. This is the state of affairs in America. So it's not necessarily about who's on that plane who may have a criminal record. We don't know their names, their first names and last name. But it is really about those that are not on the plane that could find themselves one day on a plane.
You all are conflating different groups of people. U.S. citizens are different than non-citizens, and people here under certain status are much different than people who came here illegally, particularly if you came here illegally and you were violent where you came from. And I think the Trump administration, frankly, has a political and maybe even a legal mandate to exit from the country violent, illegal aliens who are in this country.
Again, it's just great. It's just him versus everybody, and he just sits there and does it. It would be nice if they just gave him a little sidekick. Like he could have like a little guy next to him, like what's his name, Tattoo on Fantasy Island, just sitting there next to him, being like, "He's right, he's right." That would be enough. I don't think he needs like another really thoughtful person sitting next to him doing that. Look, I can't speak to whether the story that congressman just told was true, that there was someone who was a citizen that was asked questions by ICE and was detained for 3 hours, but he didn't get deported, obviously, or you would have said that. Is it possible within figuring out who is here legally and not illegally that some people are going to get asked some questions? Yes. We don't want to end up in a situation where regular citizens are walking down the street meeting lawful citizens and a show me your papers type of situation. But if we are ever going to fix this horrific situation that they put us in by opening up the borders, by allowing the criminality and the drugs and all the stuff, then the only way we're going to fix it is by actually fixing it, not just constantly talking about, oh my God, but somebody whose tattoo is a little different might get caught up in all of this. And yes, they were illegal too, but they weren't exactly in Tren de Aragua, they were in Tren de Juana. It's just babyish nonsense. Thus, it's pushed on The View every single day, right now.
And you just got to keep your eyes open, y'all. Because if they can just come up and take somebody, because they've made a decision that you're supposed to be that person. Any one of us could find ourselves being deported to some country.
Don't give them any ideas,
there.
girl.
Well, listen.
Wow, they can do that? So they could just come up to any one of those women and just deport them just like that? Do we have a clip of Whoopi, a 3-second clip of Whoopi from 1990? What would she say if that happened to her?
Molly, you in danger, girl.
Connor just whispered, it's so stupid. That was from Ghost. That was the last time Whoopi was good. But it's like, what are you talking about, Whoopi? Nobody, has anyone heard Donald Trump or anyone in his administration say we are going to deport legal citizens of the United States? By the way, at some point, as these protesters get more violent, as they burn things down, as they attack Tesla stations and take over colleges, the legal citizens that are doing this, it's not exactly that they should be deported. It's not, I guess if you came here 2 years ago, somehow became a legal citizen, there could probably be some argument to be made about that. But they should, maybe not will, they should have to deal with the legal repercussions of taking over campuses and everything else. That's different than deportation. Nobody is deporting you, Whoopi. We could probably spend some time thinking about why they should, but nobody's doing it. But this is their new meme. Their new meme is that they are going to deport legal citizens. Here's Timo Obama on that.
Listen, we have a broken immigration system. We've got to fix it. We've got to fix it in a comprehensive and bipartisan way. And all of us within the Democratic Party, we oppose illegal immigration. We believe that if you're a violent felon, you should be deported. But we also can't go down this road that the Trump administration is taking us on and potentially deport American citizens, deport legal and lawful permanent residents, and break up law-abiding immigrant families who are contributing to this country.
So that was Hakeem Jeffries, of course. You get the reference, Temu Obama. Temu is where they do those Chinese knockoffs of everything, and he's just a knockoff of Obama. It's so obvious. Again, for him to say we oppose illegal immigration, it's a lie. You guys were in charge for 4 years. You let in millions of people. Then in the next breath, he says, but we're against violent people. I don't even think that's true because you allow criminality in your cities, but that is a moot point because these people have already broke the law in the first place. Then it's, and then he moves it again. Then it's Trump is going to come for legal people. There's just no reason to believe that. If you break the law, you have, as an American citizen, you will have to deal with Lady Justice within the United States borders. But if you are an illegal and you break the law, you got to go. Now I want to throw back to that tweet from Josh Holmes that I read a moment ago because it's just right. Somehow Democrats are now arguing in favor of foreign terrorist gangs to remain in the United States because of judicial review, Hamas supporters remaining with visas for First Amendment purposes, and men playing in women's sports because of equality. What a time to be alive. And yes, it continues. You may remember this one. This is from 2 months ago, but again, it perfectly illustrates what's going on here. Here's Ilhan Omar, a woman who came to this country, married her brother to get him citizenship. Somebody should look into that. Don, I don't know if you're watching the show today, but somebody should look into that. Tom Homan, he seems interested in that sort of thing. She's radically anti-American. She should certainly not be in Congress. Probably shouldn't be in America. But here she is, and she's very upset. You remember this from January. We showed this to you. She's very upset about the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. I wonder why.
It is hard to imagine anything more un-American than that. The Trump administration's immigration policy is a threat to immigrants like criminals. America is too great to fall prey to Donald Trump's anti-immigrant agenda. We need to restore basic humanity to our immigration system, and that starts with repealing the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, with Our Neighbors Not Enemies Act. Together, we will end this xenophobic law once and for all.
God, she's evil. You know who wrote the Alien Enemies Act? John Adams. John Adams. He was a pretty bright guy. He was one of the founders of our nation. He was out there arguing with people about federalism and God-given rights and the Bill of Rights and independence and and the pursuit of happiness, all of those things. that woman has come here to upend all of it, and she thinks she has the right or the wherewithal to repeal something that he wrote. Do you realize how absolutely insane that is? Here's Tom Homan. As you know, Tom Homan will play Tom Homan in the Tom Homan movie starring Tom Homan. He had a great line on why we should not repeal the Alien Enemies Act.
You say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process?
An old law? Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
But some would say this is...
How many more terrorists do you plan on deporting?
Like, that's as good as it gets. This guy was just made for the job, right? But this is what they want to do, that you could even hear the way the media was framed. Well, that law was 200 years ago, and John Adams is dead. So why would we pay attention to what some old dead white guy said 200 years ago? And it's like, have you heard of the Constitution? It's even older than that, right? And our country's not that old, guys. We're not even at 250 yet. We'll be there in about a year and a half. And I know that there's going to be an awful lot of celebrating for the pro-America people. I don't know what Ilhan and her like will be doing. This is pretty great. Like, this is, again, we've done a little bit of Trump at his best where he takes these 80-20 issues. Well, here now they have repurposed one of the Biden apps. So Biden didn't do anything. The Biden administration created an app so that people who were here illegally could coordinate things online. You'd get an app, you'd get in, somehow you'd get an app and they'd basically free you in the country. And check in on the app every now and again. The Trump administration has repurposed the app so that you can get out before we catch you. Pretty good.
People in our country illegally can self-deport the easy way, or they can get deported the hard way, and that's not pleasant. The Biden administration exploited the CBP-1 app to allow more than 1 million aliens to illegally enter the United States. Now my administration is launching the CBP Home app to give people in our country illegally an easy way to leave now and self-deport voluntarily. If they do, they could potentially have the opportunity to return legally at some point in the future. But if they do not avail themselves of this opportunity, then they will be found, they will be deported, and they will never be admitted again to the United States, ever again. You're never coming in.
Let me ask you guys a question. Does that seem racist? Does that seem wrong? Does that seem like an abuse of authority? He's saying, you're here illegally. At some point, we are going to find you because there's a new sheriff in town, right? We're going to find you at some point. So why don't you use this app, get going, right? And he's not even saying it with anger. It's like, you broke the law, leave, and then maybe you can come back. We have to figure out what that looks like, right? What does the plan to let a certain amount of people in look like? We're just trying to clean up the mess first. But if you want to stay here legally, so let's say you're a 24-year-old kid, somehow you got here 3 years ago, one way or another. You have family here, you don't, doesn't even matter, but you're here, you're illegal. What they're saying now to you is, you can't stay. You can't stay because we're going to catch you. And if we catch you, you can never come back. So actually, you could argue that what he's doing is the most humane thing. They're saying, get going. And if you get going now, if you didn't play by the rules to come in, but if you play by the rules now, even though there are literally, I'm sure there are hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions, who are legally trying to get in right now. So there's a list of people who want to get in. You will have a chance to get back in. But if you don't, you're never getting back in. Like, there's nothing racist, there's nothing mean, there's nothing wrong about it or anything else. And if you really want to see, this stat more than anything else probably shows you the wholesale change that has happened in the 2 months of this administration. Look at this from Wokeness. Illegal migrants released at the border by Border Patrol after border apprehension. February 2024, 76,924. February of 25, 1. Connor, do we have an image of the one guy who got released back in? Yes, that's right, Bumblebee Man from The Simpsons. Because the point is, if you have skills and have a job, we still will do everything we can to let you into this great country. Let's talk about fast-growing trees, and then we'll have more on deportations and craziness and lunacy and all that stuff. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the U.S.? They've got thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to transform your yard. Whether you need fruit trees, privacy trees, shrubs, they've got it all. And if you don't know what will thrive in your area, their plant experts are on call to help. Yes, real human beings, not some chatbot that tells you to try turning your plant off and on again. Plus, their Alive and Thrive guarantee means your plants arrive happy and healthy, so you're not gambling with your landscaping. And let's be real, hiring a landscaper can cost thousands. With Fast Growing Trees, you get the same gorgeous yard for a fraction of the price. And right now, they've got their best deal of the season. You can save up to half off on select plants. And because you listen to this show, you get an additional 15% off your first purchase when you use code Rubin at checkout. That's right, go to fastgrowingtrees.com. Use code Rubin and save 15% off today. Spring is time to plant, so don't wait. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code Rubin. All right, so let's kind of recap where we're at. The left, the media, the machine, the whole thing. When is it pro-First Amendment? It seems to be pro-First Amendment, pro-free speech when it comes to burning down buildings and taking over streets and occupying campuses and aligning with, I don't know, say Hamas, a terrorist organization that still has Americans hidden somewhere under Gaza right now. It seems to be pro-checks and balances and the branches of government when deportations are happening for illegals, right? Generally, they don't care about these things, but if somehow we start getting illegals out of the country, they're very interested in the fight between the judicial branch and the executive branch. When are they pro-equality? Well, they're pro-equality when somehow it means that a boy is kicking the shit out of girls in high school wrestling. You get it. When are they into fiscal responsibility? Suddenly, when we're putting money towards a border wall, they really care where money comes from. It's all very, very bizarre. But putting all of that aside, despite all of their hypocrisy, Donald Trump just keeps moving forward. The other place we're moving forward is with peace between Russia and Ukraine. I used to, I'm old school, so I always thought that peace as a general notion was pretty good. But now we're seeing how radically anti-peace these people are because, again, it's an 80-20 issue. It's like Trump knows that most people want peace. Ukraine cannot win this war. We're going to force peace on these people. And now they've got everybody upset. This is from Truth Social. From the president. Tomorrow morning, I will be speaking to President Putin concerning the war in Ukraine. Many elements of a final agreement have been agreed to, but much remains. Thousands of young soldiers and others are being killed. Each week brings 2,500 soldier deaths from both sides, and it must end now. I look very much forward to the call with President Putin. So apparently the call is happening around now. We will see what the results of that are, and obviously we'll cover that tomorrow. You may remember this. This is Putin talking about Trump and negotiations and how maybe there is a way out of this, something that was not anywhere near the horizon when we had that elderly man with dementia.
President Trump, a smart and experienced person, will come up with a solution, especially given that he has gone through quite an ordeal of fighting to reclaim the Oval Office. Well, probably just like me, you are amazed.
So there's something cooking, and it's something good, right? You remember the 2 week ago fight in the Oval Office between Trump and JD and Zelensky. Then we start putting more pressure on Zelensky. He realizes the gravy train's drying up. Now he has to come to the table. Then Putin suddenly is like, boy, this war is somewhat intractable, right? Because he doesn't want the war to go on forever either. And now he's like, oh, Zelensky's coming to the table. I've got some leverage, let's say. I'm going to come to the table too. So there he is complimenting Trump, which obviously Trump likes the ego stroke, of course. But the ego stroke is the thing that is getting us to the table, and apparently they're talking right about now, so we will see what happens here. Now, as we get closer to peace, you know that a certain set of people are going to get more and more hysterical. Cue the televised mental institution known as MSNBC.
Tell us what's on your mind first, and then the Ukrainians as we head into tomorrow.
Well, first, Nicole, I think the way you framed what might happen tomorrow is very important. Because tomorrow, if somehow Putin agrees to a ceasefire, and we don't know if he will, but I would not be surprised if he does, President Trump is going to say, I ended the war. And that's going to be the headline, and all of his people that support him are going to say, look, he ended the war that Biden couldn't. That's not the right way to think about this ceasefire. The ceasefire is being brought about because President Trump and his team have coerced the Ukrainians to do so, given Vladimir Putin so far everything he's wanted.
What? What have they given Vladimir Putin? What? I watched the extended clip. He doesn't mention it. Now, it is true. They did say to Zelensky, the gravy train is over. The gravy train is over. So they did compel him and coerce him. So what would your counter to that be, McFall? What would your counter be? Your counter would be, okay, let's just keep giving him money, right? Do it exactly the way we have. And as I've said a million times, okay, how much money do you need so he wins the war? How many planes do you need? How many tanks do you need? How many dead soldiers do you need? Give me the number, and then maybe we can discuss it. But you guys never have a number because you want the endless money laundering to continue. It's not that complicated. So yes, I don't know that it's going to happen today, but if after that phone call there is a ceasefire announced so that then they can sit down and hopefully honestly debate, okay, exactly what the borders are going to be looking like and how close NATO is going to be to Russia, which that is largely what this is all going to be about, and whatever the other ancillary issues are, that would be good. And yes, it would. You're right, McFall, but you're right for the wrong reasons. It would have a little something to do with Trump, I don't know, exerting American pressure on both sides, actually. Let's talk about American financing for a moment, and then more on a very good story coming out of the FBI. Yeah, they've got a new deputy director, my buddy Dan Bongino. Look, I don't know your exact situation, but if you're like the thousands of homeowners American Financing talks to every month, you're struggling to keep up, barely making ends meet, drowning in high-interest debt. And it's not your fault. Life got more expensive, inflation hit hard, and if you're still carrying credit card balances with 20% plus interest rates while your mortgage sits untouched, you're ignoring the one thing that could turn it all around, your home. And this is where American Financing can help. Would you trade 10 minutes for a shot at an average savings of $800 every single month? Because that's exactly what homeowners are doing when they call American Financing. A simple, no obligation call could change everything. They have a team of salary-based mortgage consultants, so there isn't any incentive to put you into a loan that doesn't make sense. And there are no upfront fees to find out how much you can save. Don't wait, call American Financing today and start feeling that relief. 866-889-1994. That's 866-889-1994, or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Rubin. So, one of the things that I love showing you guys is the competent people that are working for this administration, whether it's Marco Rubio, who we've shown you a bunch of clips lately, just clearly laying out what American policy is, what American vision is, the history of the country, all of those things, or whether it's Bobby Kennedy or whether it's Tulsi, the laundry list goes on. Dan Bongino, who not only has had, because he has now stepped down, basically the most successful radio show in the country, but one of the biggest podcasts in the country, has put millions and millions of dollars aside to now join the government, is now the deputy director of the FBI. He wrote this on Twitter yesterday. It is an honor to serve as deputy director for the Federal Bureau of Investigation at such a critical time for our nation. The American people deserve a justice system that is transparent, accountable, and committed to rule of law. My promise to you is that I will work tirelessly to help restore integrity, eliminate political bias, and ensure the FBI remains dedicated to its core mission of protecting the United States and upholding the Constitution. Let me just say on a personal note, look, I end up knowing, it's a weird thing, I end up knowing a lot of the people that I either report on or whatever you want to call what I do here, right? I sit with these politicians and then sometimes I have dinner with them, or I become friends with a lot of the media people and whatever. I can tell you that Dan Bongino, the Dan Bongino that you have gotten to know on radio or on podcasts or anywhere else, is exactly the guy that he is off camera. He runs as hot and passionate. We've argued deeply about things as we both were involved very heavily in Rumble. I'm not sure if this affects his ability to be involved with them, like at an ownership level. I don't know about all that, but we've gotten into it about issues. But I know the man has deep integrity and love for this country. This is a great move. And if you think that things aren't changing when you bring guys like Dan Bongino aboard, well, it looks like the JFK assassination files will be released today.
We are tomorrow announcing and giving all of the Kennedy files. So people have been waiting for decades for this, and I've instructed my people that are responsible, lots of different people, put together by Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be released tomorrow.
All right, so it sounds like about 80,000 pages of this are going to be released. You're going to see all kinds of crazy things from people who will pinpoint one page and not read the rest and everything else. Was it LBJ that set up JFK? Was it the mafia? Was it the CIA, a foreign intelligence? Who the hell knows? Was it a combination or conflagration of all of those things? We will see or not see. Like, we may not get enough information from that. And maybe it was as simple as what has been laid out. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it was. Maybe the Zapruder film is all we need. Maybe it was a guy. Was there a second shot in the grass? You know, like, there's all the stuff. Will we find anything out? I don't know. But opening up the books on something that happened over 50 years ago is probably a good idea. And Trump continues to just clean up the mess. Look at this from Truth Social. Hunter Biden has had Secret Service protection for an extended period of time, all paid for by the United States taxpayer. There are as many as 18 people in his detail, which is ridiculous. He is currently vacationing in of all places, South Africa, where the human rights of people have been strenuously questioned. Because of this, South Africa has been taken off our lists of countries receiving economic and financial assistance. Please be advised that effective immediately, Hunter Biden will no longer receive Secret Service protection. Likewise, Ashley Biden, who has 13 agents, will be taken off the list. The idea that Hunter Biden and Ashley Biden had a combined, 31 agents watching them post Joe Biden presidency, Biden, who's worth millions and millions of dollars, absolutely insane, and revoking it, of course, in the case of Hunter Biden, with the crack smoking and the prostitutes and the porn and the stuff and the laptop and the bringing of the coke to the White House, et cetera, et cetera. Like, sorry, buddy, you can't, but he'll be okay. You might say, well, wait a minute. He had 18 people protecting him. How's he going to pay for that? Well, we have an image here. This is Hunter. As you know, he is a painter. And there he is painting. We found a respectable image of him painting. I think he has his teeth in there and everything else doesn't look too high. And he has sold $1.5 million worth of paintings from 10 buyers. You can do the math on that. Are his paintings worth the 50 grand a pop or whatever it is? Of course not. But it was a money laundering operation, right? People wanted access to Joe Biden. How do you get access? Oh, Dad, you're not going to believe it. This super rich guy just bought my piece of shit painting for 50 grand. Could you shake his hand and take a picture and maybe have a chat with him for 30 seconds? I will, son. How was that Joe Biden impression? That was pretty good, right? So there's just good things happening. Let's just continue. Here's a little bit out of New York right now. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has been ordered to pay more than $54,000 for violating the state's open record laws in relation to the prosecution of Donald Trump. Krause stated that Willis's office failed to provide documents related to the employment of Nathan Wade, the former special assistant district attorney forced to resign from the Trump case due to his romantic relationship with Willis. Merchant believed that Willis and Wade may have financially benefited from Wade's appointment as the special prosecutor in this case. I think that's the Georgia case. Did I say New York? I think that might be yeah, that's the Georgia case, not New York case. But again, it's just like, as this stuff gets exposed, we're just seeing how deep all of the people who said Trump is the evil one and Russia collusion, and as it gets exposed, it's all turning back on them. And of course, that brings us to the main thing that we've talked about for the last 2 months, which is DOGE. Trump brought in the Renaissance man of our time to do a little volunteer work and just see where the fraud is. And as he has seen where the fraud is, more and more people who are on the fraud gravy train are getting upset. Ted Cruz sat down with Ben Ferguson and Senator Ted Cruz, and Elon sat down with them and talked about why he is getting as much hate as he is getting right now.
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say today, after Donald Trump, the left hates you more than any person on earth.
Yes, I appear to be number two. I mean, if you're judged by the various signs,
It's derangement. It's Trump derangement syndrome and Elon derangement syndrome.
Yes.
How is that for you? That's a little bit of whiplash of going from being like Mr. Cool to the devil incarnate in just a couple of years. Is that kind of weird to experience that transformation?
Yes.
Why do they hate you so much?
Well, because we're clearly over the target. If DOGE was ineffective, if we were not actually getting rid of a bunch of waste and fraud, and a bunch of that fraud, the fraud we're seeing is overwhelmingly on the left.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not zero on the right, but these NGOs are almost all left-wing NGOs that are being funded, for example.
Yep.
So they hate me because DOGE is being effective, and DOGE is getting rid of a lot of waste and fraud that people on the left were taking advantage.
Usual with him, it's easy to say because it's right. If they were going in there doing the exact same things they're doing and not finding anything, no one would be saying anything. They'd be like, Elon's wasting his time. What are they doing? Doesn't matter. But what they're finding is massive, massive fraud. And what they are finding is that, in essence, it was a giant money laundering operation where they took money from you. All this money starts with you, the taxpayer. It starts with us, we the people. And they took our money and they gave it to NGOs. And the NGOs then spread it through USAID, spread it to all of these ridiculous things. And in some cases, there were then kickbacks, usually to the Democrat Party, or it funded left-leaning projects all over the world, the gender nonsense, the race stuff, and everything else. And that's why they're upset, because at some point, if you look long enough, because there's paper trails, it's money, right? And even in a money laundering operation, if the investigators investigate long enough, you're going to figure out where that money came from, where it started, where it was directed to, and everything else. Watch Ozark on Netflix if you're interested in money laundering. And they're going to point to people. And we're going to realize how so much of the stuff that has been pushed on us for all these years, how BLM likely was funded by us, we the people, how some of the Hamas stuff now is probably being funded by us. Like, there's so many layers of evil there. And as those layers get peeled back, a certain set of people that want that thing to keep going are going to be upset. Elon continued.
That's what it comes down to. And the single biggest thing that they're worried about is that DOGE is going to turn off fraudulent payments of entitlements. Everything from Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, disability, small business administration loans, turn them off to illegals. This is the crux of the matter.
Yep.
Okay. This is the thing that why they really hit my guts and want me to die.
And do you think that's billions, hundreds of billions? What do you think the scale is of that?
I think across the country, it's well north of 100 billion, maybe 200 billion. The government can give money to a so-called nonprofit with very few controls, and then there's no auditing subsequently of that nonprofit. So there's no. So this is where with the 1.9 billion to Stacey Abrams, they then give themselves extremely lavish, like insane salaries, expense everything to the nonprofit. Buy jets and homes and all sorts of things.
Live like kings and queens.
Yes.
On the taxpayer dime.
Correct.
You mentioned...
And this is happening at scale. It's not just one or two. We're seeing this everywhere.
So if you're Stacey Abrams and you've been getting that cash, you'd be pretty damn pissed because you want that cash. So we, the people, are taxed. The government takes the tax dollars. It gives it to the nonprofits. The nonprofits then hire all of these people that can get lavish salaries and houses and planes and all of those other things. That's what he just said right there. And then on top of that, it does ridiculous things with the money that nobody signed onto in the first place. David Sachs, who is now the head of AI and crypto, the czar of AI and crypto, he explained how deeply connected this is to the entire Democrat machine.
Laura, I was at the State of the Union and I was up in the balcony. I was looking down at the Democrats holding up these silly little signs. And the sign that I saw the most was one that said, Musk steals. And I really thought about that, which is, how is Elon stealing? He's returning money to the Treasury. And then it hit me. They actually have come to believe that this taxpayer money is theirs. And by returning it to the Treasury, Elon is stealing from them. That's my best explanation of why they're in such a hysterical state about this. But of course, Elon isn't stealing anything. He is making sure that the federal government is taking good care of our money and that we're not wasting it. It's not going to corruption or fraud. And I think that just has the swamp in an absolute tizzy, because he, along with the president and at the president's direction, they are draining the swamp.
Yeah, he's got a great way of explaining things in a very obvious sense. Elon steals. Elon steals. It's a crazy notion. He's showing you they're stealing your money. They're upset that they stole your money, and now he's, quote unquote, stealing it back. He's getting it back from the robber barons who have done all of their crazy pet projects with your cash. As always, they are always guilty of what they accuse us of. Chris Matthews, a man who was fired at one point for sexual harassment from MSNBC, he's back. They fire these people and then they always bring them back. Here he is trying to explain why Democrats are at such record low approval ratings. And of course, it has nothing to do with the bad things that they're doing. It's Trump and Elon.
Chris Matthews, what do you make of these numbers for the Democrats?
Well, you could have seen them the night that Trump addressed the Congress. And you watched the Democratic Party. They seemed like they weren't there. They were sort of vacant. They weren't saying anything with their manner. They never questioned the facts. They let the president lie about Social Security and say that we're giving benefits to people who are 160 years old or to their grandchildren. We allowed Elon Musk to go on television and tell everybody that we're using Social Security as a lure to bring people into the country illegally, that we're giving them benefits, which we're not. We're giving them to illegal people in the country who came in illegally. We give it to them. Lie after lie after lie, and said nothing. I'll tell you, James Carville, who said the Democrats should stay silent, may be partially right, but where he's wrong is you have to have a fact checker. There needs to be a war room. Remember in 1992? Yeah. Remember how Bill Clinton won that election because he had a war room. He and George Stephanopoulos were down there in Little Rock, and they were checking every fact, and nobody checks the facts anymore. And the lies are getting through to the American people.
They are.
You just lied. You just lied. He just said the absolute reverse of what Elon said. Who do you believe, and we'll figure out a way on tomorrow's show to get you some full numbers on this. Who do you believe that Elon, when he's talking about this $100 billion, north of $100 billion, as he said, that goes to these NGOs, that helps all these illegals, blah, blah, do you think that that's true, that Elon's just making that up? Or when Chris Matthews says it's not happening at all? Who do you think is making it up? It's obvious. It is patently obvious. Also, the general idea that the Democrats didn't do enough that night. You mean with the guy, the pimp with the cane and the poor shave when he was screaming, that wasn't enough? All of the signs that they were holding up, I'm a moron, that wasn't enough? They want a fact-checking war room. What he's really saying is not they don't want a fact-checking war room, they want a Ministry of Propaganda war room. We're almost to the back of the show here, and I'm warning you. We're showing you a Lemon clip. I know, I promised last year no more Lemon, and I thought he really was going to be gone. For some reason, they keep squeezing more juice out of this lemon. I don't know why. But he went on Maher's podcast. We showed you a clip yesterday, and just listen to how this man is an idiot.
People love AOC. People love Jasmine Crockett. People love Eric Swalwell and the like. And I think that the Democratic Party should put the people out there who the people want. They should put the politicians out there who the people want, who they're asking for, who are meeting the moment with the same energy that
they're not asking for AOC.
Yes, they are.
The people you party with
No. The people I party with don't like AOC.
Oh, please.
No, they don't at all.
Well, most people don't.
But
she's
AOC,
very far left.
Let me tell you why I'm saying that. Because because people will vote for AOC and Donald Trump on the same ticket. Because they're authentic. No, because they're authentic.
I don't think that Don.
I think you're wrong about that.
What people like about people like Trump and Fetterman is because it's irrelevant to her life.
But you don't know her life.
All right, I don't even want to bother saying all the things I want to say about Don Lemon. It's just so dumb. People will vote for Donald Trump and AOC on the same ticket. Like, that's insane. That they're both authentic. You think AOC with her fake accent and all of her stupid Instagram videos, like you think she's authentic. But I do think you should go. Oh, and then a minute later, he's like, people that I party with hate AOC. So it's like, what the hell are you talking about? But you know what, Don? Go with that. Don, you're a good Democrat operative now, unemployed Democrat operative, which is the best kind of Democrat. You'll get those government, you'll keep getting that government cheese. But I think you should go with that. Go with AOC. and Jasmine Crockett and the man who banged a Chinese spy, Eric Swalwell. That's your big three. Good luck with all of that. Allow Scott Jennings to bring us home today.
What we need, with apologies to Joe Lunardi, a wokatology bracket.
Oh, Lord.
To assess the most unhinged Democrats trying to take over the Democratic Party right now. I've got my number one seeds. We got Jasmine Crockett. We got AOC. We got Ilhan Omar. Now, the fourth one I'm undecided about. I'm tempted to give it to Chris Murphy because he's just really picked up his game in the last two to 3 weeks. But I really think we need a bracket to see which of these crazy Dems is going to ultimately take control of this party and bring its approval ratings from 29 to even lower depths. That's my hope for a turn.
They were all smiling because they know he's right. They have no moderating force in the party anymore, right? What you might have thought of 10 years ago as a moderate Dem, say a Chuck Schumer or even a Nancy Pelosi of 10 years ago. I'm not talking about what they've been doing the last couple of years. They are largely irrelevant now. They're on their way out. They're dinosaurs sinking in the La Brea tar pits, and the crazy progressives are jumping over them. That's what's happening right now. So of course he's right. You guys have nobody who will tell you that you can't progress into the abyss. So keep going. So you know what? While I keep saying that Jasmine Crockett is just crazier than AOC, guess what? Within 2 years, there will be someone crazier than her and someone crazier than that person. And then there will be a genderqueer, purple-haired, Hamas-supporting lunatic who will be the party leader by 2032, if not before, because you people have no ability to moderate your lunacy. As Jerry said to George, good luck with all of that. Post-game show in 30 seconds, RubinReport.locals.com. Goodbye.
Okay, thank you very much.